License Podcast, European Horror Podcast, with your co-hosts Vicky Ray, Will Millar, and Keith Chalvo, exploring the genre from a unique perspective, from extreme to classic, in a world that is set to chill you to the bone.
Hello, welcome to the Rondo-nominated The Literary License Podcast, and today we're discussing Paul Verhoeven's The Fourth Man from 1983, and it's part of our European Horror, You're My Obsession Month. And of course, who do we have with us today? We got Will Miller. Hello, Will.
Hey, gang, how are you?
And we have Vicky Ray.
Hey, everybody.
And before we get started, we like to use this as our Roses and Thorns segment. And we'll start with you, Vicky. What is your Rose of the Week and your Thorn of the Week?
Well, my Rose of the Week was I spent a whole week in St. Croix with my grandson and my daughter, and we had an excellent time and did horseback riding and horse swimming and all that other stuff in the middle of the ocean. So it was pretty groovy. And as far as my Thorn goes, and I'm really trying to stay out of politics when it comes to this, though, I'm tired of Canadians, relative and otherwise, telling the United States how bad we are all the time when they have their own problems to take care of. Thank you very much. Other than that, I'm good.
What about yourself, Will? What's your Rose and Thorn of the Week?
All right, well, Roses, it's been a really great couple of weeks. We're going to be closing out this season here with you guys, and then I'm going to be kind of working on some new projects, and one of them is the lecture series that I've been working on. I got my next one coming up this week, and I'm really excited about that.
You always got something going on now. You're a busy man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. As far as Thorns go, I'm going to just, because we're doing the fourth, we're going to talk about some really racy things, and I'm going to talk about something that I said this was a few weeks ago, right? Mm-hmm. And what do you call it? What's his name? Ricky Gervais came out and quote unquote really took it to the celebrities over their pedophilia problem.
Yeah, loved it.
Right. Everyone was, everyone loves it. Sure. Okay. And now Corey Feldman is doing his fucking thing. Okay. Let me explain something to you. Corey Feldman is a pedophile himself.
The two Coreys, though.
Yeah. So, but he is somebody who is a sexual predator himself. You look at like his little Corey's Angels gig that he was using. He actually used a form of mind control known as the bite method on a lot of runaway young ladies that he preyed upon. All right. So now he is a pedophile who, but now getting controlled again, have died. Okay. Writers like Dave McGowan, Adam Gorightly, people like Jeff Wells had their careers talking about this stuff 10, 15 years ago. And now everybody's going, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill him. So all of those people, I got to say this. Fuck you, you fucking tourists, okay? Either take a stand to this for real.
Exactly.
If this is going to be another fucking Netflix documentary that you're going to watch and fucking shut off. Go watch the real one. Go watch John DeCamp was talking about this stuff in 1993. And by the way, it wasn't just celebrities, it's the fucking government as well. And you know what? He got his career destroyed. Very real, ended up getting killed. His son, his 12-year-old son got killed. Like, it's ridiculous how many people actually got killed. And now we have celebrities, quote unquote, giving us the fucking watered down version of this. So again, I say, fuck you tourists, okay? And fuck the celebrities who are sort of fake standing up to it in this way now. Fuck it. It's not entertainment at all. Okay?
I don't follow Hollywood that much anymore. I didn't hear about Corey Feldman, stuff like that, because the last time I heard about the Coreys was the
that's
Coreys. The
thing. What it is you're getting the controlled version of the story through the very channels that are creating the problem in the first place. And that's the fucking problem. Nobody's going any deeper into this at all.
They won't either, because it goes too deep and it's too fast.
Another problem with Corey Feldman, he'll do anything to be put back in the public eye. It doesn't matter what it is. And he's using this as a platform to hopefully kickstart his career, because his career has been dead for, 20, 30 years now?
At least.
And the only thing that...
Yeah, because he's a sociopath. He's an absolute fucking sociopath, and that's what they do. They bring up sociopaths to kind of, like, it's just... It can just fucking go back underground as far as I'm concerned. Or
It's a problem. You're right, Will. It's a huge problem, and it's not getting addressed, and it never will, because he who has the gold makes the rules, dude.
Well, Corey Feldman runs with the foxes and the hounds. Oh, Michael Jackson's innocent. Then this documentary comes out. Oh no, now he's guilty. He doesn't even know what side. His bread's buttered on half the time anyway. So, and I was given his book. What was it about? God, it came out about 8 years ago to do a review on, and I read the book, and I tell you what, a piece of, you can just tell that it just didn't seem real or honest or humble at all. It was just talk about how great he was and everything that apparently happened to him, even though he doesn't mention any of these allegations that he's coming up with now. So it's quite funny that he comes out with this book and he doesn't mention anything, but now that it's a hot topic and it's something that's going to make you sell and make you notice, all of a sudden now he's talking about it. So it tells you pretty much.
Well, something obviously happened though, because the other Corey, what was his last name?
The other Corey, I mean, let's face it.
Drugs.
I mean, not to go too far into this,
right.
but I mean, children actors are prostituted up by their families in most instances, not all instances.
Right.
Of course, you do have parents that, are
Monitor.
a little bit more parentified, but you got the other parents that basically sit there and they use their children, they prostitute them out, doesn't matter what happens to them. I mean, look at Drew Barrymore. I mean, let's sit there and say, I got this black and white picture of her at the Oscars at the age of 8, and she's drugged and drunk, and she's holding her head, and this, and her parents are sitting right there next to her because they know. You take the Anthony Rapp case that you apparently, Kevin Spacey came on to him about.
Right.
Well, the problem basically, what was Anthony Rapp at the age of 13 doing at an adult party?
True.
I'm not saying that does not give Kevin Spacey a free roll at all. But what is he doing at an adult party?
Exactly.
Yep.
So so I do agree with you.
It's sad.
Board for that 100%.
Sad.
Well, my rose and thorn. Well, my thorn actually is a celebrity. For God's sake, can someone please do something with Beyonce Knowles Carter? I'm sitting there watching The Lion King thinking it's very, very good. All of a sudden, she comes on board. She over-sings everything. And I was thinking to myself, she irritates the hell out of me. When she was a Destiny's Child, I was fine until she got married to the the drug supplier there, the hip-hop guy.
Yeah.
JC or JB.
Jay-Z, yeah.
Jay-Z, there we go. And ever since then, she's just irritating. Let's stop using her. She's boring. Does anyone listen to her? Has anyone even bought a record? No. Leave her out. And my rose of the week has to be with the Netflix series called Soundtrack.
Never heard of that one.
I say I am so in love with this. The first episode is a little bit hard to take. It's a musical. But it's not the kind of musical that you think it is. Basically what they're doing, they're miming to popular singers. So it's not them singing. And it stars Campbell Scott and Madeline Stowe. And it deals with this family and it goes back and forth. It's kind of watch This Is Us, a musical version of This Is Us. But
it's sad.
It's sad, it's funny, and loving it. And it's funny how you see everything start connecting. Because it took me about 2-3 episodes. Oh my God. And it's fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. It won't be coming back for another series. So all there is 10 for you to watch. But I highly recommended it. I'm making everyone watch it. Everyone's agreeing with me. It's like, this is fun.
What's it called?
Soundtrack.
Is it over? I don't know if it's here.
Music is the soundtrack of our lives. So when we're feeling down or happy.
It's half the stuff you guys watch I can't get yet over here.
Soundtracks on all across the world in Netflix. It's a Netflix original series. So
Okie dokes.
There you go. So now that we run the gambit of celebrities and politics, let's move on to Paul Verhoeven's The Fourth Man.
What we do best when we're not bitching.
The Fourth Man is a 1983 Dutch suspense film directed by Paul Verhoeven. It's based on the novel the same name by Gerard Reve. The film stars Jeron Krabbe and Renee Soutendijk, and was Verhoeven's last film made in the Netherlands. This is the film that would give him his U.S. Contracts, which would start out with RoboCop and
Total Recall.
Till he came back to.
He did Total Recall too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
It was selected as the Dutch entry for the Best Foreign Language Film at the 56th Academy Awards, but was not accepted as a nominee. The Fourth Man is also one of the highest grossing Dutch films in America's history of all time. The title refers to Krabbe's position as the fourth man subject's character seduces after she presumably has dispatched her first three husbands. The film is sexually explicit and, like many of Verhoeven's other films, shows graphic violence and gore.
Yes.
Now, the other thing is quite interesting about this, it's also considered a kind of a sequel, a spiritual prequel to Basic Instinct, another Paul Verhoeven film. So what we're going to do is cut to the trailer, and we'll be right back to talk about The Fourth Man.
Spin neukt ook met een mannetje en vreet hem dan op. Dood.
Dit kan u toch niet zijn?
Hé, stop eens. Stop eens. Daar staat Gerard. Mijn naam is ook Gerard. Dat ben ik.
Ik heb geen man meer. Hij is dood.
Verrek. Christientje. Hé, waarom heb je me dat niet verteld? Waarom heb je me dat verdomme niet verteld? Het is zelfs erger. Ik kan je verhalen vertellen. Vertel eens.
Vanavond een bekende en controversiële gast. De schrijver Gerard Reve.
Maria, de moeder van God. Die heeft me geholpen. De vrouw in het blauw.
En dan komt u meteen klaar?
Oh? Allicht. Die jongen is hartstikke gek op je. Jij of ik, een van ons tweeën gaat eraan. Zo niet erop. Prima! Ik lees wel in de krant wanneer je de pijp bent uitgegaan.
Gerard! Gerard! Gerard!
Stomme trut! Stop. Stop. Stop! Verdomme, wat heb je met dat wijf? Die vrouw heb ik in een droom gezien. Ah! Ah!
Hello, welcome back to Literary Legends Podcast, and we're discussing Paul Verhoeven's 1983 classic, The Fourth Man, made in the Netherlands. So, Will, what are your thoughts of The Fourth Man?
Well, I really liked it. It's probably one of his more restrained movies for the next few years.
Restrained? This is restrained?
Castration and stuff like that. But then you go on and you watch something like RoboCop or Total Recall, and you realize, no, this is just this was his deal. He had his style. Still does. I mean, he's still making movies and stuff. I didn't realize until watching this how interesting the real Gerard Reve is. Because you watch this movie and the protagonist Gerard he's a real guy. He's a writer. His name is Gerard Reve, and this character is sort of him playing the most mustache-tweezingly villainous version of himself that he could possibly think of, which was a super interesting move if you think of, like, somebody not only placed himself as the main character in a book and in a movie, but made themselves the villain through just kind of magnifying their own negative character traits, which is amazing. And this movie is one of the best versions, I think, of magical realism I've ever seen in a film. If you look at the writings of people like Jose Luis Borges or Umberto Eco, or a lot of these guys, Reve is doing a great version of that in his writing, and the film does a great version of kind of bringing his writing to life.
It does kind of echo Umberto Eco a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
It just kind of brings you back. What is it, The Rose that he wrote?
The Name of the Rose, yes.
The Name of the Rose, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. This is a really just a brave movie on a lot of different levels. I mean,
oh yeah.
I'm
surprised the Christian church, they must have been PO'd when this came out, I mean, it had to have some kind of reverb.
There's no way does this film get made in America first. This could only have ever come to be made in a place like.
Well, it's almost the sacrilegious Samson and Delilah, is it not?
Well, Samson, Delilah, and there's also Catholicism tied into it.
He's tied into. There's also, he's saved by the Virgin Mary, which is, to acknowledge that the Virgin Mary saves a gay man in the middle of his, trying to seduce a couple. It's like it's wrong on every single level, and it's brilliant for that.
It is, but it's decadent on the other hand.
Say that again.
It's decadent and it's full of all kinds of, seediness, but he does it very well. It's all presented well, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about this, the cinematography is done by Jean Delbont. If you don't know who he is, Speed. He directed Speed. He also directed the horrible Haunting remake as well, unfortunately. But he's actually had he's done really good career outside of being a cinematographer, as being a director of action films as well. So he does have that beautiful. He does have a way of filming things very beautifully. And I thought the film looks very beautiful.
Was it Gerard Reve? Is that how you say it? I can never say his name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've always seen him in movies like what was it? He was in movies with Harrison Ford.
A lot of them did American stuff after.
But he was so much more. I never saw him in a role like this before. I always thought of him as the villain with the suit on, like in Presumed. No, wait, it was the Fugitive that he was in. He was the bad guy in The Fugitive. And so that's the kind of roles I've seen him in. And this is the first time I've seen him in an early Raw role, which this was. So I was like, wow, I didn't know he was capable, because he was like the reserve villain in all these newer movies, if you will.
Well, if it wasn't for Paul Verhoeven, you wouldn't have Rutger Hauer. If you look at early Paul Verhoeven films, whether it's Letters or The Turkish Delight and so on and so forth,
right?
Rutger Hauer's in all his films. He did all, that's how he got his American career, doing these films with Paul Verhoeven. And I know that we're quite versed in the American idiom as far as the Paul Verhoeven films are, until he's come back and did fantastic films, and he's still making fantastic films. Elle, which is about a woman who's addicted to her rapist, which came out and was up for quite a few awards. And it's a really great film with Isabelle Huppert in it. And then we also have The Black Book, which actually deals with real Nazi occupation of Netherlands, and it is like no holds bar. Schindler's List looks like a TV commercial.
Really?
And it's it's about this woman, and it's a true story about this woman. And so he's still making films, but he's still making hard-hitting films. But even if you look at his American films, he's always dealt with really, really difficult subjects. And even though he always sits there and talks about, the feminists don't like him very much, and the gays don't seem to like him very much. But if you look at his films, never do the gays or the women come out badly. They're always the strongest characters. Whether you looked at RoboCop, Nancy Allen is probably one of the strongest female characters you'll see. Basic Instinct, Sharon Stone, what a strong character. Renee Soutendijk in The Fourth Man. Total Recall, of course, that ends up becoming more of an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle there. But even like Showgirls, I mean, that's one of my favorite comedies of all time. And Starship Troopers was kind of looks at the military, but doesn't actually, but it glorifies the military to a stance that, you need to join the military to get citizenship. But it doesn't feel like this really interesting lens that I don't think an American director would have been able to accomplish.
Starship Troopers, that's with the giant bugs on the planet. I actually like that movie.
Well, it feels like Beverly Hills 90210 meets science fiction, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I feel to it. So, but I mean, if you look at all Paul Verhoeven's films, he never takes the easy way out in any of his films. I mean, RoboCop, if you look at the consumerism and advertising that's used inside RoboCop, inside the movie itself, I mean, it does make you kind of look at American culture in a more
Total Recall
way.
is nothing but consumerism.
So when we get The Fourth Man and we look at, the way he views Catholicism, for instance, and to be honest, we're all taught that Catholicism is very judgmental and basically you can't do this and can't do that. But he turns it on his head where it's like, well, everything points to, the Virgin Mary and Jesus and all the other Catholicism views that we're getting here. But at the end of the day, that's what saves the gay man, as Will was mentioning. So that's what I quite like about Paul Verhoeven films, and I've always been a huge fan because he gives you something, and it should be straightforward, or straight A to Z with nothing, but he throws all this other stuff at you at the same time, making you kind of readdress different things that you normally would think of. And that's what The Fourth Man is one of my favorite all-time Verhoeven films.
I actually liked it. I watched it straight through, didn't get up. It caught my attention well into at least the first 15 minutes. And that didn't bother me, that she took scissors in his dream to his penis, which actually made me close my legs, and I'm a girl.
That was also before Samson Delilah. Delilah cut Samson's hair off to demasculate him.
And she's got a hair salon. So.
Yeah. And if you realize that her name is Christine Helslag. And she's very open, free. She's very free with her sexuality, which is quite an interesting last name to be able to have for that character.
Helslag, I know.
And I also think, there's just so much nuance. And every time I watch this film, I see more and more and more. And I've seen this film. I went saw this at the movie theaters in 1983. Loved it. Used to rent it, and I used to work at a video store when I was in uni. And I would put this, we got to pick our top 10 things for people to rent. And this was always in my top 10. And people would watch it and they would come back and go, actually, they were kind of shocked by it, but actually liked it. So when it came to America, I imagine it kind of shocked a few people because let's face it, we're very puritanical and it's a lot of hypocrisy on our part, but everybody's, talking about it. To be honest, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma when this came out. I was in uni, and it came out. It was sold out for 2 months at this foreign theater, and that's the Buckle the Bible Belt. But I do think that in the 80s, the early 80s and late 70s, well, probably between the 70s to the early 80s. There wasn't the hypocrisy that would end up turning on its ear from 1986 onwards, and all of a sudden, where the Christian right started getting involved, and with horror films and banning stuff and censorship and everything else that would come into play. But up until this point, this came out, and I remember everyone praising it at the time it came out, sort of thing. Yeah. But it did go to. It wasn't Cineplexes though. It was. Independent, Thorn House. film. So, what are you saying, Will?
Yeah, we think that we've gotten like less puritanical and less prone to censorship, in the last like 30, 40 years. It's crazy to think that this movie came out almost 40 years ago.
Yes.
We've actually gotten a lot weirder about things like sex and censorship and what you can and can't say. I think that this was made actually in a more free artistic environment than, especially in America, than what we have now. There's a lot of just storytelling aspects to this that you don't see in films nowadays. Like, it inverts everything. So, Gerard is essentially playing a villain. He's not a hero. There's nothing heroic about him. This is sort of his redemption story. And you don't get that. Nowadays, you have to have clear delineations between good guys and bad guys. Like any story that you watch, if you turn on any movie that you're going to see on Netflix now, within the first 2 minutes who the good guys and who the bad guys are. Pretty much. And it's all just, it's told in this very simplistic, dualistic kind of way. And we've gone back almost to this, we've regressed to where we're watching movies where the good guys are wearing the white hats and whatnot. Whereas this, it just blends everything. It's a redemption story. And like you said, Keith, it's smart on a lot of different levels. I was trying to just catch all of the scenes where the bleed through would start to happen from, his waking real world into, the dream world. And I love it when logic kind of dissolves like that.
Well, sort of like the crypt, where they're the crypt and he realizes what's going on when he sees the 3 urns. That was a pretty intense scene.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's that he does a very good job of bringing a lot of surrealistic sort of elements onto the screen in ways that you haven't seen done that effectively since. I'd say he kind of out Cronenberg's Cronenberg in a lot of scenes in this one, and yet the gore doesn't ever really take center stage.
No, exactly. I agree with that.
I think another thing that's quite interesting is we're actually dealing with a film that you tend to get in books that normally plays really well in books, but does not play well in films. But it plays very well in here. Is we have an unreliable narrator. We're seeing everything through Gerard's eyes. Mm-hmm. So, and the thing is, he's putting the pieces together, but he's putting the pieces together for us. So it's not, so what we're seeing is unreliable from what he's telling us.
But does it ever, maybe you guys caught it because you're looking at it with, different eyes. I never really understood what her deal was. Why was she killing these men?
She wasn't killing. She didn't murder. She didn't murder her. She didn't murder her husbands. I mean, if you look at the way the men died, sort of thing. Okay. One was a parachute situation.
Right.
We don't know if she has anything to do with it. One husband basically takes raw meat and steps out of the car to feed a lion, which mauls him.
Right. That's true.
She didn't push him out in the car and whatever like this. The car accident that kills Herman at the end of the movie. She's not in the car. She didn't mess with the brakes or anything like that. There's it's a case of like death by foreshadowing. It seems to be like, which she actually has nothing to do with it. I mean, is she the Black Widow? Is she the Sphinx? But we're looking at it from Gerard's point of view, and this is how he sees her. So this is how we see her.
True. Okay. Good point.
That's very interesting that you say that. And I agree. I think we're looking at a yes scenario. Mm-hmm. I think that I read everything Gerard Reve has ever written now. This guy is amazing to me. But essentially, I think that. Okay, so Gerard is an awful human being, right? I mean, from start to finish, he's just terrible, right? And we get the sense from her 3 previous husbands that they were pretty terrible. We know Peter is just the worst. I mean, the 2 of them, they get together and they start talking like if Quentin Tarantino could write a Disney villain sidekick, that's what these 2 guys would be, right? They're fucking horrible. And so what is she? She's sort of a witch in that she harvests these terrible people, she brings them to her, and then she just kind of lives her life, and then they destroy themselves right next to her, in the same way that like a force of nature just kind of.
But she is a form of catalyst, though. I mean, she doesn't. Her hands don't seem totally clean.
No. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's the yes and. I think that it's in her nature to sort of devour these hapless idiots in the same way it's the nature of the the Black Widow to devour the male. These guys are feckless. They're absolutely useless, and and that's the funny thing about this is that the guy who wrote this is telling the story. Gerard, like he's a broken man, and this is the off. He's and if you want to kind of dial into his sort of Catholicism, this is like an act of it's an act of contrition. Gerard Reve's sort of act of contrition, in the form of this story. And yeah, Delilah, what's her name in it? Oh gosh,
Christine.
Christine.
She's not a good guy or a bad guy. She just function. She's basically like the Grim Reaper for these guys.
But also, the ones that ignore the warnings are the ones that die.
Right. So,
do the other ones get warnings? Because we don't, as I said before, we only see things to Gerard, and the only time that we do see the husbands is through home movies. So we're not sure. We're not sure if Thomas, another person who ends up becoming a victim, we don't really hear what his inside narrative is, or is he getting signs like Jared's getting signs? So we don't know if these other people get signs like Jared's getting.
No, I would say that they don't, and that's the whole point. The whole point of this is that Gerard is saying, I'm a horrible person, and the only thing that saves me is my Catholicism. All right, and that's it. That's why the Virgin Mary comes forward and says, we haven't talked about that crucifix scene. But I mean,
yeah,
we can. It gets really intense. But I mean, so he's basically, what's his name? Peter sacrifices. The sacrifice of Peter awakens Gerard reawakens him to his connection to his Catholic faith. And so it's very kind of just out in the open. And the reason that he's saved from the witch is because of his connection to the Virgin Mary. She essentially is a witch. I mean, but that's just what witches do. It doesn't make her good or bad or anything. It's just, again, she's, Christine is the Grim Reaper, and the Virgin Mary saves him from the Reaper.
I mean, I thought another quite interesting thing that we find also in this is that Jared's bisexual, though he tends to be more leaning towards the homosexual side of being bisexual, considering that his lived-in boyfriend is quite an effeminate male. But I quite like the way, and the thing is like, the alphabet people are probably going to get really angry if they're listening to
the alphabet.
But I think that we probably need to address it, that there is this thing with a pocket of gay males who have a thing for straight guys, and they'll throw themselves out. They'll do anything they can. And I thought that the way this is handled in the film is very, very well done. Though I did find it that it kind of flips it a little bit, because when they are in the crypt and Thomas Herman has decided to get down and dirty with Gerard in the crypt,
right.
And then we find that it's Herman that actually takes the upper hand. Right, it wasn't Gerard going down to go down on Herman. It's Herman going down on Gerard, which I thought was
kind of shocked when that happened. I thought he wasn't going to be an aggressor at all in that scene.
I never took. Was his name Peter or Herman? I thought his name was Peter.
Herman.
Herman.
Is it Herman? I'm so sorry. I thought that Herman was just your classic sort of rough trade kind of guy.
Yes, exactly.
He's not gay or straight. He's just slutty. One of those people. I mean, and again, in that classic sort of way, what's the first thing he starts talking about is his plumbing gig and how he's going to beat up all of these, or he's going to round up all of these black kids and pack them off to jail if he doesn't get everything that he wants out of them. He's, again, like you said, he's a Disney villain sidekick, but I think he's just hypersexual. He's not gay or straight or anything like that. That's all three of them, essentially. They don't.
Well, they're all hypersexual, all three of them.
And that idea of being gay or straight or whatever is something that Paul Verhoeven kind of, he's never, he doesn't believe in the Kinsey scale one way or the other.
Right, the Kinsey. Which leads me to, what the hell was with that crucifix scene?
Well, again, I would just say, it's a.
He was dreaming, I know, or was he having a vision? I couldn't.
But you also have to look at Christ on the cross. Christ on the cross, the depiction that we have of him, because let's face it, we have the Da Vinci version of Jesus in almost every church across the world, sort of thing. And to be honest, it is a highly sexualized Jesus.
Oh yeah,
that you do see
highly sexualized. Yeah.
Well, he's not overweight. He's very muscular and muscular. Normally,
he's handsome.
And outside the very few people who do paint crucifixes back, in the early days where they do see Jesus looking, in throes of pain and anguish. That's very rare. That's the rarity. The beautiful Jesus on the cross is what we normally get, sort of thing. And to be honest, he's not skinny. He's not.
Well, he was going to do what I think he was going to do when he was hanging on the cross, was he not?
Oh, I think he was definitely going to gobble that guy's knob. Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it like that, but yes, he was.
I'll just say it. He was going to deep throat that dude. But okay, so
nothing sexier than Jesus in a Speedo.
The place where he goes to, he's in what do you call it? He's in Amsterdam, and then he goes to, I'm gonna butcher this, but it's called Vlissingen, and it's a place where according to the church, a canonized miracle actually happened. There was a saint who landed there. Come on now, Saint Willebrord. Landed in Vlissingen in the 7th century, and he had a bottle that just never ran out of wine, and so he would just share it with everyone. And that's how the city actually sort of sprouted into existence. So it's in answer to your question, Vicky, I believe that he had a mystical experience. And is it a dream? Is it reality? Well, the nature of a mystical experience is that it puts you into that liminal realm between what's real and what's not real. And
the astral
in the
plane
past,
or whatever.
These mystical experiences did have a highly sexualized component to them.
I've never seen that before.
What's that?
I've never seen anybody try to blow Jesus before.
No, maybe not, but you have heard, a jungle or an island god down penis and get carried up into heaven. Like there's it's like that. If you go back to, if you read just Mircea Eliade or some of these, Paleolithic myths, a lot of them are tied into sex. So
right.
Gerard Reve, the writer, I believe, because he's written a lot of books about this exact thing. This was just the one book that they made a movie of his out.
Right.
But the whole idea of mystical experiences being in that realm and actually tied into sex is something that this guy has written about a lot. So we had a guy in a Speedo.
Well, do you think this was like a descent into madness on his part too? Because he really, like, his brain was just on hyperdrive.
Well, we are talking with a guy who is a hardly functioning alcoholic as well.
Yeah.
If you think of when he gets up in the morning, he's shaking. We're not talking about we're not talking about a man who's like has had one too many every once in a while. We're talking about a man who has one too many every single night of his life, every single day of his life. He's an alcoholic.
Well, right. And he does get hammered, and he takes out all those videos, and then he starts watching one after another. This guy died. It starts with a wedding, each one of them, does it not?
Yep, and then it basically them going off into meet their doom. Whether it's the motor guy, but they always, I quite thought it's outside the one being mauled by the lion. They're always out up by themselves. She's not with them.
She's never with them though, isn't she?
No, the boat accident. She's filming the boat as it goes off. She's filming the guy getting out of the car for the other one. The skydiver, she's filming the airplane flying off, and then she films them as they drive off before Herman's death. But she's not with them. She's not filming the actual deaths.
Yeah, true. But you're led to believe she has something to do with it, whether it's a supernatural thing or, it's just...
Or maybe she's just You know, if it wasn't for bad luck, she had no luck at all.
I wouldn't keep getting married if everybody keeps dying on me like that. Jeez.
Well, you know, to be honest, maybe that's how she can afford the really nice house and all the money.
Well, yeah.
And you know, she has a really nice salon coming out of her house.
She's got a nice life.
Nice cars. So, and, you know, she's well trusted. She's well liked in the community.
Everybody, the police love her. Everybody loves her. So it doesn't appear that she's done anything wrong. But she, you know, she does kind of play damsel in distress a little bit when they're interacting.
Well, not really, because I think what she does for me, I don't see her as a damsel in distress or playing the damsel. She plays what she thinks that you want to hear. You know, the thing is, she plants seeds. She plants seeds about Herman. She leaves information out and then just walks away from it. Like, okay, I trust you. You're not going to look, knowing full well he is going to look.
Right.
So, and you know, she plants little seeds. You know, the bit like, but she has his number. You know, she goes, "Oh, I got you a tomato juice. Oh, what is it? It's a Bloody Mary, strong." Yeah. And he drinks it. It's like really strong in the vodka. She goes, "Oh, I can take it away if you don't want." No. That's fine. Yep. You know, so she knows exactly. You know, she knows exactly how to read everyone.
He used a lot of red too. Played on the color red quite a bit thematically throughout the movie.
Well, red is a Catholic color, isn't it?
Yeah, the spider, the tip in his glass to the Virgin Mary, the Bloody Mary, and he has the red petals, flower petals are flowing in the breeze. I mean, it's just this movie's just nothing but death. But if you look at, but another thing that's quite interesting, if you look at Christine, Gerard, and Herman, they are part of a trinity. True. Did not think of that.
You know, you have, and I guess and what's quite funny about the Trinity is that they're between the Trinity, when you print out the Trinity in religious means, is that there's a lot of gray in between this Trinity, which is in these characters, there's a lot of shades of gray going on between them, whether it's their sexuality, their motivations, what they're actually thinking, what you think they're actually thinking, and that's what makes it quite interesting.
Well, they're also saying there's some kind of comedic side to this, and I didn't think it was funny, though.
I think that comes from Krabbe's performance. I think that there's parts of it that are very, very funny, but I think they're more funny from a European standpoint than from an American standpoint, because I think that when I first saw this, I didn't see the humorous side of it. But now when I watch it, I do see humorous bits coming through that I never noticed before. But I don't know, living in Europe for so long now.
Right.
I'm kind of
I think that some of the humor comes from knowing that this is written from the point of view of like a real person who sort of sees himself like this in his worst light. Like if we all knew that Stephen King wrote a book or wrote a movie about a guy named Stephen King who was like an alcoholic who, did a bunch of crazy stuff and just he shot himself kind of like, because towards the end here, when what do you call it? When Gerard is in the mental hospital saying she's a witch, he's doing like full-blown Jim Carrey body humor. Like his body language is just crazy at that point. And so this guy we don't know Gerard Reve from Adam here in America, but in the Netherlands in the 70s, he had risen a bit of prominence. So maybe not Stephen King, but we could say like Chuck Palahniuk, like the guy who wrote Fight Club, then all of a sudden writes a movie about himself where he can't keep his hands off of somebody, off of the worst two people in the world, and he's drunk throughout the whole thing. I think that that's where some of the humor sort of comes from, and it's really dark humor. But I don't know.
I guess for America, I guess the closest thing we probably have with someone writing themselves into everything would probably be Ernest Hemingway, I suppose. Hemingway was always like some alcoholic out in the...
Right. But even then, he never called himself Ernest Hemingway.
No, he didn't.
There's something to that there's something about that when you watch this villain just bumble about and just, he's the worst. He's the absolute worst. And this is a real person. Like, it's just, there's something to that that's just, I guess it reminds me of like being funny in the same way, like, what do you call it? Some of Charlie Kaufman who wrote like Synecdoche, New York, and
and he also did Being John Malkovich and other things like that.
So in that kind of way, this is, I think it's extremely funny. Like,
Though I do think that this is probably like the earliest form of what they call it, not mega.
Meta humor, or exactly. It changes everything with that. Otherwise, this is just it's a slow descent into madness, you know.
Yeah, it is. He really does lose his shit towards the end. There's no doubt about it.
But the funny thing about it, though, the reasons why he loses his shit is because he's the instigator of the reason why everything's happening.
He's the absolute instigator. Yeah, he's the guy who does it all. He's punching.
He's the one that arranges for Christine to stay at home, and he's going out with Herman. He'll show Herman around. He's the one who instigates that.
He could have just left. You know, he could have had a fling and walked out. He decided to do this, like, extremely destructive, extremely just...
Well, he was after her money, wasn't he? You know?
No, he was after Herman. He wanted to have sex with Herman.
But he liked the money, too, though.
No, it wasn't. It had nothing to do with the money. Money started.
You think it was all about Herman?
It was all about
completely?
Herman. Oh, I think so, yeah.
He could write. He's a writer. He could write anywhere, but he decides that he's only supposed to be there one night, and something happened in the hotel room. That he had a hotel room, and he kind of invites himself to her house.
Yep.
And then you know he has sex with her, but meanwhile, like flattening her chest because that way she looks more like a boy while she's
I did notice that. I did.
Yeah, and she's a very attractive woman, I find.
Oh, yeah, she's beautiful.
Unfortunately, she made some bad movies in America and came back to the Netherlands. But if you see any of her other stuff, she's still acting. She still pops up here and there and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But you know, and then it's him that brings up. You know, he sees a picture of Herman underneath some papers, and it's him that brings it up. And she goes, "Oh, maybe I'll invite him over." And she goes, "Okay, fine." And she invites him on his request to come over. He
picks up the picture and sniffs it like he's like one of those creepers. Yeah, he's as creepy as can be. And,
I thought he was a starving artist too, though, that wanted her money. I just thought that because she pays for all of his writing supplies. Well, he's a bum.
Yeah, but he's not really a starving artist. This is what's quite telling about the whole thing about him is that he is a successful writer.
Right, he doesn't seem like it, though.
That's because he spends all his money on drink. He's an alcoholic. That's where all his money goes.
Well, he's funny because he's a cheap alcoholic pervert. And again, this is the guy. He is. No, he really is. But again, this is the guy who's writing this about himself and then making a movie about it. Remember that, like at the core of all of this, like there's a real person out there who's actually saying this about himself. Like that's just mind blowing to me. I don't know.
I mean, look at some of the stuff that Gerard does. I mean, the thing is, he goes on a drunk. She goes off. He watches the home movies, gets drunk, gets to the point where he makes a mess out of these home movies.
Yeah, he throws
them back into the safe where they need to go after he's like stumbled around in the dark. Next thing you know, he bursts in on Herman getting out of the shower so he gets a clear butt of him.
Yeah.
To the point where, you know, Christine has to pull the towel slightly over his private slightly. You might want to lift this up. And then they go into the bedroom, and then he sits there and jacks off while he's looking in through the keyhole of them having sex.
Yeah, he is a pervert. You're right.
Oh, he is. But again, he's writing this about himself. It's that changes everything. I don't know.
Maybe I just don't have an eye for the European character. I might not have the eye that you guys have, but I didn't realize until you guys just told me that he was writing about himself.
Oh,
yeah.
Books now. He reminds me a lot of Bret Easton Ellis, at least in terms of this, but just a lot more approachable. It's great.
I mean, I think that it's also quite telling about the part of Jared as well, and the part of the author, and the part of what he thinks. And you basically get the way that he thinks he is God. He is the most fantastic thing on the face of this earth when he's giving his answer and questioning.
He is full of himself.
Oh my goodness!
And to be honest, is he a starving artist, or does he like to portray himself as a starving artist?
Well, that's the impression I got. So.
Well, you know, if you look at most writers who are very, very successful, they will present themselves they're especially like a writer of the people, or they're writing to a certain public. Then what they'll do is they will dress down the way they are, and they'll give you the look that you think that a writer should have. You know, the torn cuffs, the He's not going to be kind of person that's going about like, he's not going to be like, hey, I've hit it bad. I hit it big. I'm J.K. Rowling. I am fantastic. Look at me. I'm glamorous now. He's not going to be that kind of a writer. He's going to be someone that's going to be, more of a kind of a political, social, kind of a socialist and dealing with sociological things within his own settings. That's what he writes about. It's not about fiction or selling the next Harry Potter series. It's more about this is what he writes about. He's probably, I imagine, he's probably social commentary setting up.
Well, I also think that the commentary is that in general writers are all horrible people and never to be trusted. This is absolutely true. Like if you're in a room with one, just keep your eye on your stuff and don't trust them. Just they're terrible. No, it's I love that. This is a cartoon character come to life, in just all of his, in just every single. He's so blind to all of the things that make him such a terrible person. It's just, I don't know, great. Yeah.
This was dubbed, was it not?
No, I don't think there is a dubbed copy. It's subtitled. The version that you
subtitled,
saw,
subtitled. I meant
subtitled. Though I am still waiting for them to come out with a Blu-ray or DVD version of this.
No such luck.
Yeah, not yet. So, Gerard Reve is also known as to be one of the top three, considered the great three of Dutch post-war literature. The other two are Simon van Reve and Gerard Reve. The other two are, William Frederick Hermans and Harry Mulisch, which is quite funny that, he basically says William Herman. So God knows he probably was getting off of this other writer named Herman and put him in the movie. Yeah, because Tom Hoffman plays William Herman. So it makes kind of wonder.
I had no idea he was such an accomplished writer.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I did not know that.
But he was one of the first homosexual authors to come out in the Netherlands.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It's like this is me being a stupid American, but I don't know like where and when it was out in different countries. I know that in England it was still pretty frowned upon, even up through like the 60s. Whereas
to the 60s, you can be in prison for it. Up until
frowned upon. Yeah, you're just gonna get locked up while they frown at you.
The Netherlands has always been a bit more open to things. I mean, it's
right.
Marijuana was legalized here before anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like intravenous drug use and stuff like that goes, they have tents in Amsterdam that you go and you do that, and it's not illegal. Prostitution's in shop windows. They're a bit more worldly, and they're more to the point, but not to the point where it's like not to where like homosexuality is very, very accepted there, but it's not. But they all have equal rights, but they're not looking for special rights. It's just everyone's equal,
right?
So that's kind of like there. I mean, the thing about Gerard Reve, he often wrote explicitly about erotic attraction, sexual relations, and intercourse between men, which many readers would consider shocking. However, he did this in an ironic, humorous, and recognizable ways, which contribute to making homosexuality acceptable for many of his readers, which helped pave the way of making this the norm, making homosexuality a norm. Right, but meanwhile, throwing it in your face, but at the same time doing it in an ironic and comedic way to make it acceptable. So
it was kind of an anxiety attack. This movie was.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
But I mean, I think before we wind this up, I think that we probably should mention the Catholic imagery that Verhoeven uses, and I think that it is used very, very well.
I think so.
Where it's not shoved down your throat, but it becomes like a wonder for your eyes to behold, which I quite liked.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it kind of showed and I love the way that it was done in a Technicolor, cartoonish, garish color kind of a way. Whenever you saw the religious imagery coming through, it was always bright colors, like a very Technicolor, Disney-fied version of Catholicism. Which I
did have that look on his face where he looked like he was going to laugh when he was having the vision of Jesus on the cross. You know,
but even if you looked at that, I mean, Jesus is wearing a red Speedo. And he's
I know.
and I mean, and he's like nicely tanned, and and
he's
then
a good-looking
and then,
Jesus. Let's say what it is.
and then when you get Mary walking through the cemetery, and she looks like she's going to shoot him, and then it turns it to be a key, and basically she's in this bright blue with these bright red petals flowing everywhere.
Yeah.
And I have to sit there and say, whenever you saw the Catholicism coming alive, it's always in bright Technicolor colors.
Yeah.
That's what I quite liked about The Fourth Man as well, that even though it's a film that you kind of watch and it kind of just washes over you, but it washes over you in a way that you're kind of taking it in at the same time with it, and you don't overthink it. You just kind of just watch it, and then you walk by and go, what the hell did I just see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna have to watch it again.
it's one of my favorites. I love Verhoeven films. I think he's a god to me. So what we should do is start talking about our final thoughts. So, Vicky, what are your final thoughts of Paul Verhoeven's The Fourth Man?
Well, after talking to you two, I'm going to have to watch it again because I didn't really see a lot of undertone of the comedic like you guys did, even though the research specifies that it was comedic. I thought it was like a descent into madness. And this guy just totally losing his shit. He's paranoid drunk. You know, but I guess he's successful, but I thought he was a starving artist, but apparently if he's talking publicly, about his books and whatnot and his writing. So clearly he is successful to some extent, I mean, I thought he was bisexual, but I guess he more leaned towards the homosexual as opposed to bi. But she
just
did
sleep with a woman and they'll get him the guy.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm going to watch it again because I still have it. And I'm going to have to go. I mean, it's one of those movies, obviously. I mean, I liked it enough to watch it again. So I'm going to have to go back and look for these things that you guys had brought to my attention. And maybe, other people that are listening to the podcast that, are fans like you all will probably say, maybe I missed that too. Because I missed a lot of this. Usually I'm right on top of it. But this one kind of caught me off guard a little bit, and I didn't see all the writing on the wall. So I'm going to have to watch it again so I can get more out of it because it's a good movie. I'd definitely watch it again. I mean, I think it's one of those movies you have to see just because, it's refreshing watching these movies that aren't Hollywood without offending everybody that likes Hollywood because it's a breath of fresh air because it's not typical Hollywood. I'm so sick of typical Hunger Game Hollywood. So I like these movies. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
What about you, Will?
Well, it's smart filmmaking for one thing, which we don't really see a whole lot of anymore.
Not anymore.
There's some really they make some really brave statements in this movie. I would say that first of all, Gerard Reve's theme is that Catholicism in its best form is the doctrine of universal salvation and non-judgment, because he never releases his Catholicism. I would say that if you ask Gerard Reve whether he defines himself more as gay or straight or whatever, he would say that he's Catholic in that universal sense.
Well, do you think he was looking for redemption?
I would say that anybody who practices Catholicism throughout their entire life is absolutely looking for redemption. However, in the same sort of way that it's beautiful, it can be bad in that people who are just seeking redemption from exterior sources refuse to work on themselves a lot of the time.
Then again, though, in the Catholic faith, I don't know about you, but me and Keith were raised Catholic.
I was raised Catholic too.
I'm Episcopalian.
You're Episcopalian. Well, maybe even the Episcopalians, because you can sin and go to confession and go back and sin again.
Yeah.
They go back to confession.
We don't have confession.
You don't have confession?
No, we don't believe. We believe that confession. We believe that confession to a third party is actually a sin.
Right.
We confess to God Himself, and that's it. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the point is, they're writing about forces of nature here. Catholicism is a force. Christina's witchcraft, if it is a real thing, is also a force. And Gerard is just a hapless fool caught in between these two forces. And it's pretty brilliant in the way it very casually drops this very real pedophilia problem that has been throughout the highest levels of everything, going back forever. It goes back forever. And they just kind of, Gerard Reve kind of just drops it. Hey, this is real. It's real. Want to do something about it? Cool. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. It takes a lot of chances, and I'd recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it again. Now that I know what I know. I learned even from Keith.
And my view of Verhoeven's The Fourth Man, this is one of my all-time favorite films. I do watch it. I have downloaded a hard copy of it from Amazon because there wasn't never a really great DVD of it that came out that was in widescreen. So I'm waiting for that Blu-ray. So I am very familiar with this film. Every time I watched it, I always noticed more and more. That's what I quite like about this film. I love everything's foreshadowing. The whole film's about foreshadowing as well. And I do like that it just catch you off guard, but it's just something that every time I watch it, I always learn something or see something different. And but then again, to our listeners out there, I am a very big Paul Verhoeven fan. I love Spetters. I like Turkish Delight. I liked all his Dutch films. I've liked all his American films. So I might be a bit biased on this front. So
Perhaps.
So, saying all that, which is all well and good, this brings us to the end of our podcast about the Literary License podcast, Paul Verhoeven's The Fourth Man from 1983. And just to let you know, we have been nominated for Rondo. And if you'd like to vote for us, please look in the show notes. It'll tell you how to be able to vote for us by sending a simple email. And that email says that you will not be put on a list and you will not be bombarded with a bunch of trash. But if you want to vote for something fantastic, vote for us. So,
pick me.
Pick me. Next week, we'll be discussing Dark Shadows, episodes 178 to 200, and we will be putting to bed the Phoenix storyline, and we'll be welcoming 2 new characters called Willie and Jason McGuire, which will be quite an interesting talk. Next month is our Guilty is What Guilty Does, and our European horror selection for that month will be Les Diaboliques, the 1955 French classic. If you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it because it's one of those that is the film that Alfred Hitchcock said that he wished he made. So of course, you can always sign up to our newsletter, which is at www.llpodcast.com, and just sign up there. And anyone who signs up, make sure that you might want to send a picture of your pet. And we'll be discussing the winner for February, who will be winning a sweatshirt of the Literary License podcast. It's not just a sweatshirt, it is a hoodie. And you can listen to us through Podbean, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn Radio, Cashbox Radio, and all the fantastic ways of listening to podcasts. We're on there. And, of course, our social media. Make sure that you share, like, and tweet, and make sure you comment to us because we do listen to our comments and we do comment back. And you can do that through, of course, YouTube, of course, and iTunes. You can leave some comments on there. But, of course, you can also do the main ones like Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and Pinterest. If you're looking for some fantastic pictures of all the films that we're asking for, look at our Pinterest account and you'll find some fantastic pictures that will help make your day. So this brings us to the end of the Literary License podcast. So good night, Will.
Good night, Will.
And good night, Vicky.
Good night, everyone.
And we'll see you next week with our Dark Shadows episodes 178 to 200.
This has been a Literary License podcast production, and this was my will.